Okay, on today's video, we are going to talk about how to steal someone's Google display advertising campaign. If you're just plain old looking to have a Google display advertising campaign work, you tried it, you crashed and burned, this is going to be a way for you to be able to get it going. It's going to have information on how to set up a campaign and actually get one step forward by looking at what your competitors are running so you can do it for yourself. I will admit, in a lot of markets, there's nobody out at all doing any display advertising in it, which leaves the door wide open. But if we can actually do it, and if I'm going to do it for campaigns that I'm running for a client, I'm going to start off by, most of the time, seeing what I can rip off from the other person doing it. Because if they're doing it with a few kind of caveats attached, if I do it, it obviously will probably work. With Google display advertising, not as straightforward as a Google search ad where somebody's looking for red shoes, so therefore I put it in front of them. It's quite helpful to get to the point where we can be break even profitable, so we can actually, because when we get over that hump, it's all a downhill slide. We use our data to optimize, it keeps getting more profitable. And so I don't want to waste too much money up front for the client. Of course, they don't want it either. And so I'm going to look at the competitor's campaign. So anyway, on this video, I'm going to tell you how to do that. I'm also going to tell you different examples of display advertising campaigns that were built off of this strategy and how you can actually use this strategy yourself. And then some caveats and some pros and cons with the whole thing as well. So anyway, first off, software like What Runs Where, which if you don't know what that software is, it's a software that is supposed to be able to track. It's like a SpyFu or SEMrush that tracks all the ads on Google, for instance, and then so you can spy on their ads. Well, What Runs Where is just for display advertising. Normally, it isn't as great as you think, because the main thing that you have to get right with Google display advertising is the targeting more than anything. You can have the exact ad, you can have the exact landing page they're using. You don't have an idea how to do the targeting, it's like you're knocking out two legs on a four-leg stool is not going to work. The targeting is two of the four. It's more important than the creative is. Of course, if you have crappy landing page and ad, the targeting ain't going to matter. But respectively, I think people underestimate this somewhat. They think that if they set up a smart campaign or something like that, it's going to work if they have the ad. And this is what I tell everybody. It's just like any other automated campaign that you set up through Google or whatever. Yes, particularly with Google, yes, it will work. It's just a matter of how long. You might have to spend $100,000 before the campaign works. Because the more of it you leave to chance, the more guessing you're doing, especially when you're doing automated campaigns through Google, you're going to do there's machine learning going on, so Google's going to, and trial and error, every possible combination. You want to be doing as much research as you can, even though it's not fun to do hours or days of research versus spending 15 minutes to set this up. But with that, you will you may not even make it profitable otherwise if you don't do this, but this will save you obviously tons of cash. So with that, we want to look at our competitors. Of course, you can use a software like that to find their ads and landing page, but it's also good to see if we could spy on their targeted audience, how they're targeting it as well, which I'm going to talk about next. So here's the method to find out not only what ads they're using without spending a $300 a month software to do it, if you want to do it by hand, and also how to figure out how they're targeting those ads. You can have the whole entire package of how these campaigns are set up. You'll have it all basically at that point. So here's the method. First, make 5 Google ad accounts, setting up age and so on and so forth, the traits on the questions where it asks who you are and what you are when you sign up, to match what a typical customer you have now looks like or what you think they look like. Okay? Obviously, if you have 5 accounts, you're going to need 5 phone numbers, just as a thing. But anyway, with that, you get the general idea. We're going to use these accounts then once we've got them set up and we're going to do research on each. So if I sell a cloud, let's say I sell virtual private servers or like web hosting, dedicated web hosting. I want to know how basically we're trying to have our competitors' ads show up for us so we can see them and copy them. And so what you do with these accounts, and you do multiple accounts because you can get more information, you're going to go then onto like 100 different websites pretending you're doing research and making it look like you do research to the Google ad algorithm that tries to match up which ad should be seen by what person and for what customer of theirs. And on blogs, forums, anything and everything having to do with dedicated servers. How to buy, but particularly not how to configure them, because that's going to screw up things. To be more specific, how do I pick the right company? How not to get ripped off? Reviews of different companies. Anything that's closer to where the purchase is actually made is what you want to focus on with this. And you'll do 5 different accounts because it'll allow you to have and you're going to go to different sites on each one so you have the most information you can. And then, so when you find that one though, you'll put it in a spreadsheet or something, the ad, you'll screenshot the ad, then you get the landing page, screenshot that in case it disappears. And then, you'll obviously, once you've done that, then on different sites, because on Google Display Network and Google AdSense, they have ads that can be run on almost every other website because they have almost 90% market share. So as you start to do research, you'll start to see the banner ads on the sides of the sites that you're on having your ad show up there, of course. And then that's where you copy it. Now, as far as who to copy and what to copy, a lot of people think that it's there, it must work. Same thing with Google Ads on Google Search. That's a misnomer. I've said many times on my videos on this channel that 20% of people are going to be making 80% of the money. A lot of people either don't make money and don't know it because they don't have tracking set up, believe it or not, and I've seen people spend millions on ads and they don't have tracking set up. If they can afford to lose all that money, that kind of thing can happen. Or they're just making a little bit and they're working really hard for a little bit of margin or profit. So the general gist, and this is what I do in order to know who to copy first at least, because sometimes it's not perfect. You create just a formula for yourself, which you're going to take if you do this over a few months and you do more research up front, which I recommend you do if you have time or can put this off into somebody else to help you, you're going to monitor how long, not just see that one person's ad show up once, but every time you see it show up, you're going to make a record of it. And the longer they've been running the ads, the more likely they are to work, right? That makes sense. So you can put that you're going to divide the length of time that you've seen the ads divided by the revenue of that company on the bottom. You can find the revenue of almost any company going to Melissa data is what I use. And then whatever number you get by dividing that, that's going to be your score for that competitor. And you're going to do it for all the competitors that you find. And the highest number is the one that you're going to try to copy first. And obviously you won't always hit it right that first time. It's not a perfect system, but it's a better thing that if you have 10 people to copy, you at least know what to copy first. Again, we're trying to minimize the amount of money that we're wasting up front to get to profitability here. So, and I don't want you to lose faith in it too early either, obviously, not having the experience or whatever. So anyway, you get the general idea. And then I would recommend testing the top 3 anyway, but at least then you'll know which of the 3 of the 10 to go after. So you get the general gist. Moving on, once you've done that, now this is where the targeting ripoff comes, ripping off their targeting settings that they have. You're going to go to manage ad settings in your Google Ads accounts. That actually tells you all of the different things that Google has pinned you as in terms of them categorizing you as a user so they can pimp you out essentially to the advertisers. Whether you're, one of the things that you'll see in the situation that I mentioned is you're interested in cloud computing, and then, or you're interested in, web hosting or whatever. And that's where you're going to be able to see then, so if you see competitor A targeting you on account A that you set up, you're going to look at the targeting settings and you're going to assume that if I target those same settings with the same ad that they had and the same landing page that they had, that this will work. It's not a foolproof method, but it's a good place to get you started. I'm going to give you some extra information about targeting here that you're going to use with that. That's not, because it's not that great all on its own, but you've got extra information that you can use to get 1 foot ahead, which is what this is about and what we're doing here. So you get the general idea. If you do a little bit of different searching on different accounts, then you can kind of narrow down, okay, the similarities between all 5 accounts in terms of what they have pinned, Google has pinned us as, is in terms of what we're like. It's similar on 3 out of 5. This trait is similar on 3 out of 5. So this one I'm going to focus on more than this, one I only seen once out of the 5 times. You get the general idea. So anyway, you got that. Now moving on. Now we're gonna set up the campaign. I told you that targeting is by far the hardest part and the most critical part. So we're gonna have to test some things. You're gonna create some custom audiences to target people, plus separate ad targeting options to find the ones that are gonna work the best for what you have. So you could pretty much copy the ad in the landing page pretty much exactly. You can't do exactly, but change as little as possible so it's not an identical rip-off. That way you have controlled the targeting options is the experiment test group that you have to figure out here now, so that you aren't figuring out is it the ad? No, you're just figuring out the targeting at this point. Because usually if you get the targeting similar and you got that right, the ad and the landing page at that point, since you've seen it in action already, probably works. As long as that company's not so big that they could lose money, of course, and it doesn't matter, like I talked about before. So, with that, there's custom audiences that you can set up so that if you find that there's 3 traits that all the advertisers seem to be targeting in terms of their targeting, you can make a custom audience that says if they don't have all 3 of these traits, I don't want the ad to show up. You can also set it up to target just this one, just this one, just this one, and you can see what the conversion rate is if they have just this versus just this versus just this in our targeting. I recommend you do both. I would do, if you had 3, for instance, I'm going to do them separately. I'm going to do 2, and then the other 2, and then all 3 together. And because ultimately, you may find it works somewhat if they have 1 of the 3. It works better if you have 2 of the 3, and it works the best if you have 3 out of 3. So you're going to find out, and you obviously are going to go in knowing what kind of ROI or cost per lead that you need. And so you'll try the variations out, and the more restrictive that you make it, the less volume you could get with the ROI. With the most restrictive ones, maybe make it, and that's all you could run. So, but along with that, I would also, just as any display campaign I run on Google Display Ads, on Google Display Network, is I'm going to pick good 10 to 20 keywords that I find are the most relevant keywords somebody would type in to find and buy my product actively through Google search. And I'm going to create a custom audience with those keywords in it. And that's going to target anybody that basically has done any research in my market already. Okay, that's one. I'm going to create a custom audience to test along with that, which is going to be a list of all my competitors' brand names, trade names, product names, and URLs inside a custom audience. So that if anybody's been searching for my competitor, been on their site recently, both, that I will be able to target that person. That's a big secret in terms of these Google Display Ads. And then I'm going to have an audience that's pre-populated. So, basically some of these traits you're going to be able to find when you type in. There's a box when you set up a Google Display campaign or in the audience menu where it says, what do you want to target? And you type in what you saw on the manage ad settings before, and it's just going to be there. If it's not there, you're going to create a custom audience so that you can do it. But I also, just in my market, I start typing in keywords related to my market, and they'll have pre-populated ones to pick from, and I'm going to pick all the pre-populated ones that are there in terms of targeting options so I can test those as well. So once we're all done, we're going to have all of our targeting options that we found our competitors were using, any ones that Google suggested, any of the ones that match our competitors, as mentioned, any of the ones that match people that were searching for the product in the recent past, that were almost looking to buy or whatever. If you want to go one step further, I'd make one more with the keywords again, like I said before, but the top 10 or 20 keywords that somebody's going to type in to do research on how to do it themselves. That might apply in some market, but you're going to just have to do that. At least you're starting out with the ad and landing page that works. So all of that will work somewhat. Some of it only maybe get 50% ROI, another might get 1,000. You'll just have to figure out which one's going to work and which ones you're going to have to axe. And there'll be some that you'll be left with, but then at least you got something now that has an ROI that you want. On top of that, if you don't get the ROI that you want, if since you have a good ad, you'll be able to lower the cost per click that you're paying once it's been running for a while. So instead of paying $1 a click, you can pay 30 cents a click or 20 cents a click. And then therefore, then you might actually have the 10-to-1 ROI that you're looking for. I do that most of the time when we start out as well. And if you don't have a click-through rate on your ad closer to 1%, I take what they have, improve it so I can get closer to 1% so that I'm paying, instead of $1 per click, I'm paying 15 cents a click, which that right there makes the difference in terms of it being profitable and not in a lot of occasions. Just as a side note about Google Display Network advertising. And the different audiences, you can, if you're doing manual campaigns, which is the only thing I do, you can set a different bid adjustment for each of the audiences I mentioned here. So some of them, they show a 100% ROI. Well, you could downgrade the bid by 90%, and then it'll give you some action on it, whatever it can give you, so at a 90% less price. So now you have some action at 10-to-1 ROI then, which is another thing that you do, just as a trick of the trade. So anyway, that's in general the methodology that you use, okay? I'm going to get in as the final thing here about different campaigns where I've done this and different scenarios where I've done this, so you can see how it applies in your market as well. This obviously can work for a product, service, B2B, B2C, it doesn't matter. I did it for a bed-in-a-box company, so we had a Facebook campaign already working. We're moving stuff over kind of to Google's display network. And for most people, just as you would think that if I'm going to target, those like Casper mattress, those foam mattresses that you can ship out to people that were big here, and they still are big recently, versus a spring mattress that you have to go to a mattress store to get. A lot of people would think to target people looking for mattresses with that. Specifically, with this method, we found that people that like IT geeky people, if you want to call it that, no offense to anybody that's a geeky type of person, but that type of person that was interested in that kind of stuff was more likely to would be willing to buy a bed on that type of terms. And so basically what you have there then is you can target people just that way, but more specifically, you can target, as I mentioned before, you can create a custom audience. So you can say, if they aren't this and this, then I don't want the ad to show. Somebody looking for a mattress and they're a geek, bump the ROI up enough to where the campaign worked. Enough to get a 7-to-1 ROI on it. I rounded it off to 7-to-1. It's not obvious exactly, but so anyway, you get the general idea of what you can use, what this is like and how it's done. And of course, Casper is a huge company. You just rip off their advertising. They have all the money to do it wrong until they do it right. And then, therefore, it's easy to do something. When you have a big competitor like that in your market, this is actually very effective. The next one is a life settlement company. It's like when you have a life insurance policy, you want to sell that policy. If you know you're going to, you want the money back from it at some point, and you can sell it sometimes before death. You sell it as well if you know you're going to die. Well, anyway, this company's, the ones that, it's called a viatical. Before you die, you can sell your policy to a company. They give you the cash value so you can pay for your treatment. Well, in that particular situation, we found out that targeting people that are looking for cancer information has nothing to do with the initial thing. That was very effective in and itself without any other things added to it. So we just started targeting people looking for information, the stage 3 cancer and beyond. Then the display advertising worked, okay? So that was found by doing the method I told you here, just looking at what the top guys are doing that are spending, $300,000 a month, what have you. So you just take what they're spending and use it to your advantage here. 14-to-1 on that campaign. As a last one, we have a roof product. So this is a roof product that helps you repair the roof. And with that, we, in that situation, there were some other people selling kind of similar solutions. So one thing you have to know with this is, even if you are the only one doing exactly what you do. Other people that solve the same problem but do it in a different way, you can copy them as well. But, anyway, in that situation, that's what we did. We actually looked at the other people that are solving the same problem. Well, we found out, products that, ultimately that you do yourself at home or whatever, and before getting a full re-roof done. We found out that somebody that's looking for information about, to fix the roof, but is also classified as a DIY type, do-it-yourself person type, that normally likes getting their hand dirty. It's a big difference between willing to do something and like doing it. So the person's, if you give them an excuse to do something on the weekend that looks interesting, they're more likely to buy a lot more likely to buy than somebody who has to I have to quit golfing this weekend to do this. So anyway, adding that DIY option with the people that were looking for information on how to stop a roof leak on top of it, with both of them together then, having found DIY was important by looking at some of the other competitors' audiences here, 9-to-1 return on that particular campaign. So anyway, so you can see the different pros and cons of this and different configurations where this can help you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I have a lot of other videos on this channel just like this. You should check them out if you have not seen any of them yet. I have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to build campaigns that are guaranteed to work for you and certainly do for our clients here at Guaranteed PPC. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel within a day or two. But I hope you enjoyed. Hope this will help you, be brave enough to go forward and try Google display advertising out for yourself, given not a lot of people know how to do it. Now you have the keys to do it for yourself. So good luck with that.